And?
So I need to greet some accident spectators or users here. So let me greet them in Russian.
Okay. Actually, nothing.
Добрый день всем. Я рад приветствовать людей, которые пытаются и очень хотят выучить английский язык. Сегодня у меня гость Чарльз Тинклер, и мы с ним сегодня будем обсуждать такую интересную тему, как выучить английский язык. На что нужно будет обращать внимание? В первую очередь, должна ли быть это в первую очередь грамматика, произношение, словарный запас, устная практика. Единственное, что беседа будет проходить на английском языке, так как Чарльз плохо говорит по-русски, но иногда, может быть, я буду что-нибудь переводить на русский язык. Charles, let's begin our first conversation, our first meeting about this problem of how to learn English language, because people in Russia not many people in Russia speak English. I could say that, not more than 10% of people, or maybe not more than 1% of people in Russia can speak English fluently. Yeah. By the way, what is your sensation about that? In Moscow, when you worked in a company, so how many people speaking English did you meet then?
In the office, I would say that the number who spoke English would be in the region of 90%. But the actual people who spoke English fluently would only be approximately 2%.
Yeah.
Lots of the others could speak English to a very beginner's level. And actually, the two best people who spoke English were two girls who had lived and studied in Canada. But of course they spoke in an American kind of accent.
So, and what about job requirements? So, did they have to speak English on a certain level to apply for a job at your company?
It was required to speak English because the main managers were all understood, although they were not all English. The company was run by and owned by Indian people, Asia. But of course they had a good understanding of English. So yes, in the office, generally it was required that you had a level of English that could be understood by an English person quite easily and readily.
Well, thank you. And what about outside the company? So just in ordinary life.
Well, when I first came, going into shops,
Yeah.
I found that many people had a very, very basic understanding of English, but they were all willing to try. I never found anyone who would just say, "Niet, niet, niet." They all would try to speak English. If I was asking for something or whatever, they would try. But the general population, no, the general population walking in the street and everything, they had no need. But of course in Moscow you have shall we say, a certain level of tourism. Not very high, but there was a certain level of tourism, plus the fact that there at that time, when I first came, there was companies from the UK, from America, and many other European countries. And the people generally from these companies spoke English.
Well, could you try to figure out maybe approximately how do you think a percentage of Russians speaking English, where it could be?
Oh, I would, in a generalization, I would say only 2%.
2%.
Yes, only 2%.
Well, okay. And how do you think that is in other countries? For example, in Spain. When you go to Spain, how many people could speak English? I mean, local Spanish people and tourists use English language there in percentage.
Well, the biggest difference is in the amount of tourists that go to Spain. It's enormous. So if you are in Barcelona, shall we say, even the tourists from Germany, France, whatever, spoke English, or they speak English, I should say. And so I would say that in Spain your percentage would rise to 20-25% of people would have, shall we say, an understanding of English, which would help them with ordinary tourists speaking English. But the general public also, because they hear English being spoken in the street, even if it's not directed at them, they pick up certain words. So they have, so you can say there's a 25% of Spanish people have a good understanding, but also there is a fairly high percentage of Spanish people have a, shall we say, a knowledge of English. Not that they can speak English, but they can understand English. If they hear an English been spoken, they understand that is English. They understand that. So they then, generally, the normal public, pick up certain words.
Okay. Here I typed a number of aspects which important for people who want to learn any foreign language. So here we see speaking skills. Just need to highlight them. Speaking skills, grammar, vocabulary, listening comprehension, reading comprehension, and pronunciation. Maybe it's because it just doesn't understand British English.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. So, and pronunciation. Well, we need to set a priority. So, do not look at these numbers. Yes, just let's try to make the priority. So, on your opinion, what is the most important aspect out of those 6?
Well,
Just a second. I need to ask my wife to speak a little bit.
Okay.
Hello. That's okay. Just the granny of my sons, she didn't realize it.
No.
We are speaking here. Okay.
Why would they?
So,
Why would she?
so on your opinion,
My opinion.
yeah,
My opinion, I think I would go actually with, as you've got at the top, speaking skills.
speaking skills.
Yeah.
Okay.
The actual pronunciation of words.
Improves. Yeah.
Yeah. There is certain words, certain phrases that we use a lot in English. So if people can, and if we can get people to understand them, it's like what we in England call
Continue. Yeah, you may continue.
is like saying it's the chicken or the egg situation. What comes first? And I would say that understanding the grammar, of course, is important, but you have to understand what we are speaking of first.
So, as far as I understand, that is also this aspect here, like listening comprehension.
The listening comprehension.
So, should we move it below the speaking skills, or above?
Well,
it?
yes, because you have your speaking.
Yeah.
Then the person has got to be able to listen
Yeah.
to it and understand as you say, the comprehension. They have got to comprehend what
Maybe-
someone is talking.
Maybe first they need to understand and then learn to speak.
Well, the only problem I think with to do it that way
Yeah.
is that the person doesn't feel as though he is gaining anything. When someone is learning and he has the ability to speak, even if that is only hello, how are you, then it is a good for them. They are happy that they have actually learned something. But then, of course, after being able to say hello, how are you, it is good that then they can understand what someone else is saying to them. Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. But I think that the speaking skills is much more important than the listening comprehension.
Yeah, okay.
Although the listening comprehension is definitely important in the fact that they have got to be able to understand what people
Okay.
are saying.
So let's go down the list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So after listening comprehension, we still have these 4 aspects. So,
Well, after your listening comprehension, I would definitely go with grammar.
with grammar,
Yeah.
you think that it is that important?
Well, I think so, yes. After your listening, why do we say a apple? Yeah? An apple. A apple or an apple. Why do we say that in English? So I think that's why the grammar then comes in. I mean, a person can go through life, I think, without really understanding grammar. But if they want to become fluent, then yes, it's definite.
Okay. I have an idea.
Right.
I will make a table, and on the left, we will show your priority, and on the right, I'll type my priority. Okay. So grammar is the third.
Yeah.
What's next?
I would go with the pronunciation.
Pronunciation. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Pronunciation.
Then I would go actually with reading comprehension.
Reading. Why do you think that is more important than vocabulary?
Well, it is so that students can look at words and have the comprehension of what the words are and help them. The problem with vocabulary is that a person learning any language as a second language, vocabulary, it can take a lifetime to understand for all of the vocabularies. It's very difficult to understand all of the, I mean, if we're talking English, all of the English words. It's no different if I'm learning Russian. To learn all of the Russian words would take me a lifetime to become fluent in vocabulary. I think that the vocabulary needs to be we learn the vocabulary when we talk of people with pronunciation. We want to be able students to pronounce words. So we introduce certain words to the students. And of course, when you ask a student to read something, again, you're introducing vocabulary, certain words. So to have vocabulary as a separate subject, it's like the verbs. What's a regular verb? What isn't? How do you teach someone them? And the only way is for them to read, the reading comprehension. So then you are also introducing vocabulary. Vocabulary you're introducing every day with new, different things.
Okay. Understood that. Now I want to show you my list, but just looking at yours, I think maybe I'll adjust a little bit my one.
Just mine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
Yeah, I think now why not? Yes. So my is not very different from yours. So I thought that the first very important thing is listening comprehension, because many classes in past I started like this. I started to talk them directly, no matter zero level or not. I just could demonstrate them objects and say them something like, this is a pen, or this is my copybook, and they could understand. But that now I realize maybe not the best way, because it takes time. Maybe 10 lessons, maybe 20 lessons until they really start to understand something. So the second was speaking skills. So as far as you see, just there is a swap.
Yeah.
Well, next, where I was very concerned about pronunciation. I started to work on sounds from the very beginning, when just little children, or in many cases adults, started my lessons. I just was very concerned about their pronunciation. I said, you need to learn to pronounce English sounds properly. And then then it was a place for grammar, then reading comprehension. Yes, I completely agree with you with what you said. And then vocabulary. So now I think that speaking skills would be indeed better on its first position, because I do not have much time to develop their listening comprehension during first 10 or 20 lessons, because parents want faster results.
Well, that's right. They want instant, as it's called, instant gratification. They want, yes.
And they do not see any results.
That's right.
Their child just understands but doesn't speak, where are your results? Yeah, you see. So that's why, yes, now I'm trying just first, at the very beginning, to teach them to say something, a word, a phrase, or whatever. Well, so now, yeah.
You see, the pronunciation, and the grammar. Why I put grammar first is, let's talk, say, the past. I know it's a tense, but part of grammar. the tense. So I talked to my friend yesterday. Now, why am I saying in the pronunciation talked? Why is, that is important. Talked. Now, why? Because we are, for past, we add ed. Talked. So I want the people to understand why they've got to pronounce a word in a certain way.
Yeah, understand this. And I also think that I agree. Actually, I agree, and I'm going to swap them. So, because I thought then, well, yeah, if you teach them to pronounce, it's good, but they need to make sentences.
Yes.
They need to use be in its forms. They need to use articles, and it is grammar, and a serious grammar, by the way. So I have a student, she's a woman, and she has a friend. She is a teacher of English, and she is the director of a school. She takes children and sometimes their parents to England twice a year.
To England?
Yeah,
Okay.
twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
Winter vacation, winter holidays, and summer holidays. And once she wrote something there as her research work, I don't know, or maybe essay. And she had a person in charge of her work there. He was an English man, and he said that she had too many mistakes with articles. Yeah.
Yes. One of the big problems with an article, or with the articles, is that because it's not used in the Russian language, many Russians think, I make a sentence, I put an article in, one article, and that's it.
Yeah.
I put the article
Well,
in.
but we are talking about a woman, a teacher of English. She knows that, but still experience troubles with articles, and I understand what troubles. Yes, there are some nuances which still need to work for non-native speakers. And she asked that Englishman, yes, so what about them? How to use them? He tried to explain, but then realized that it would take too much time.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, just use by statistics. There is used more often than a.
Yes.
So when you don't know what to use, just use that. So to complete your research work or something, yes, because actually they didn't have much time for that. And I want to say that, well, article, it is the most difficult thing in English grammar. It is even more difficult than tenses. That's why, yes, if we start entering English language with some focus on grammar, like some simple verb forms of especially be, have, and some other verbs, mostly in present simple.
Yes, that's right.
Like
yes.
with s ending is a big trouble for them, actually. That is my observation. So and articles, and sometimes they forget to use some prepositions. I mean those prepositions which are connected with the case, parentive case, yes, possessive case, because in Russian language we do not use prepositions in this case. We use endings, and that's why they forget. They forget to say something like, well, a glass of water. In Russian language there are only two words, стакан молока. and in English 3 words,
Yeah.
and they say glass water,
Mm.
something like this.
Mm.
Or to write with a pen. In Russian language, there is no preposition like with. Писать ручкой, 2 words. So, and in English, to write with a pen, 4 words actually. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
well.
and they just forget to use that. But the most problem is with the of preposition. So like, I mentioned that, a glass of milk. Dative case, 2. Sometimes they do not put 2 when it's needed, because in Russian language it's also missing.
Yeah.
And with of, by the way, none of my students coming first on my lessons pronounced it properly with v sound. All of them pronounce it like f, of, exactly, like this, of. I said, no. It's pronounced, it has 2 ways, of and of. But of is unstressed, and unstressed is used in more than 90%. That's why try to pronounce it like of, not of. Yes? And this is a whole discovery for them. And they say, oh, our teacher says this like of. And some of them complains when they pronounce it like of, and teachers correct them.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, my private tutor said that it is pronounced like of. She said, no, he's wrong. And if you continue saying of, I'll give you 2 marks. You see?
Yeah.
So what is it? I don't know how to call it.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. I mean, that is a problem with, I've come across, not that particular problem, but other problems where the school teacher is quoting one word in a certain manner, and you try and correct them. And I mean, obviously, you know, the teacher is kind of saying, you know, I'm in charge. This is what you do.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So our conversation is over because of time.
Right.
So thank you for this conversation, and I hope that some guys will find in it something useful for them, and we could keep going this way.
it has been my pleasure, and I hope that we shall have more conversations in the future.
Yeah, me too.